We've almost perfected the rationalization of victimhood. Part of the reason why you get an opportunity is because you've got a hard life story to tell.
Growing up, it was never instilled that we should be that. There's no room for victimhood. Maybe entrepreneurship could be the solution.
What was the most common barrier to entry?
The fear. The fear that is instilled in you when you're young, that it's not going to work. We've seen many people fail, and therefore, who do you think you are? Young people can be told or taught that entrepreneurship can be a career path. They can be job creators.
Every time we have conversations about entrepreneurship, there seems to be an agenda to try and entrepreneurialize people. That not everybody is supposed to be an entrepreneur.
For me, I start by thinking that entrepreneurship is about finding
Today I have an excellent guest, and as you'll probably gather yourself, he's a man of impeccable credentials, and you will get to understand that yourself. He'll also talk a little bit about the work that he does. But primarily, our conversation is going to be centered around a book that he and a co-author has written. It is called Rising from the Township. It's an inspirational documentation of various entrepreneurs rising out of South Africa's townships. It's about really finding your entrepreneurial voice without being brought down or kept down by the circumstances that we all know of from the townships. And I'm here talking to Dr. Stephen Zwane. The book is called Rising from the Township. He has co-authored the book with Yamgela Khozwa Chwakadi. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate your time.
Such a pleasure to be here, Unfiltered with Aubrey Masang.
So, Rising from the Township
Yes.
is a very interesting idea. What was the inspiration behind it?
The inspiration behind it, Aubrey, was when I was doing my doctorate between 2019 and 2022, researching about what stops young people from choosing entrepreneurship. The biggest lesson was that they lack role models. Number two, they don't know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And because I was doing a doctorate with a practical outcome, I felt that I want to be a part of the solution. And one of the solutions was, let's document stories of entrepreneurs so that an individual who gets a copy has 10 role models, number one. Number two, through the journeys of each and every one of the entrepreneurs, they can understand that entrepreneurship is hard, that it requires resilience, and that it's a team sport as much as it is individual, and that it's not a child's play. It's not easy to establish a business and sustainably deliver it. So we think that Rising from the Township, it's a knowledge creation. People will learn, people will grow, and people will make sense that entrepreneurship is hard. Why this is critical is because there are two things. Growing up in the township, entrepreneurship was a swear word, because entrepreneurship for us was the mother who puts up a table, sells fruits and vegetables. It didn't matter that the proceeds of that was feeding their home, the proceeds of that was taking somebody through school. It was just never what entrepreneurship was, and people never wanted it, and we were told that let's pursue a career, and employment was the answer. Fast forward 2025, we know that unprecedented, that youth unemployment is sitting up to 60%, and there's not enough jobs to absorb them. And for us, we are saying maybe entrepreneurship could be the solution. Young people can be told or taught that entrepreneurship can be a career path. They can be job creators. That's really the thinking behind Rising from the Township.
What do you make of the statement that comes out every time we have conversations about entrepreneurship, that there seems to be an agenda, an unfair agenda to try and entrepreneurialize people?
Yeah.
That not everybody is supposed to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
an argument that I agree with, by the way, that not everybody is going to be and is meant to be an entrepreneur.
Correct.
But there seems to be a backlash against the conversation about entrepreneurship or the encouragement of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I asked that question because I think it has some roots in the idea that entrepreneurship is actually not a very good thing that you've just referred to now.
Correct.
But what do you make of that backlash?
You know, Aubrey, I think that backlash sometimes is justified because a lot of people got bent on this entrepreneurship thing. And to a certain extent, sometimes just people are not so aware and then they're projecting their ignorance in the world. For me, I start by thinking that entrepreneurship is about finding a solution to a problem that exists and monetizing it. So if you're finding a problem that exists and then coming up with a solution and monetizing that, we all do that. And I think for me, then there are two paths to it. One, you can do it within an organization, and that's employment. When you do it outside of the organization by creating your own organization, it's called entrepreneurship. That idea comes from a big question that academically has been, or people have been looking to answer. Can entrepreneurs be taught? Can entrepreneurship be taught? Can somebody be taught to be entrepreneurial? And I, through my research, have found that actually entrepreneurship, like anything else, can be learned. And once you learn, it's up to you what you do with it, because entrepreneurship is about problem solving. Entrepreneurship is about confidence. Entrepreneurship is about wanting to close a gap in a market. So the people sometimes when they come up with that perspective is because they only understand one part of entrepreneurship, the action part. They do entrepreneurship. Before you do entrepreneurship, like before you do leadership, somebody must teach you. And so for me, my focus is on the entrepreneurship education side, where I'm saying, give me the skill sets, help me build the mindset, then I can have the confidence that if I see an opportunity, I can take it up on my own. So entrepreneurship can be taught.
Whenever I hear people talk about skills, and I imagine that entrepreneurship is a skill.
It is a skill, life skill.
Every time I hear people talk about skills, I always get the image of being able to do carpentry, for example, or to be able to compose a song, or to be able to, but it's something that you do.
Yeah.
I worry though, Doc, about if I were to make an example to say, I understand any skill to be like a thing that you wield, like a sword that you wield, right?
Yeah.
And you'll tell me if the analogy it makes any sense. But I worry about the hand that wields the sword. I worry about the mind that has that skill.
Yeah.
I worry about the personality that has the entrepreneurial skill. I worry about the fact that part of the reason why entrepreneurship has got such a bad rep is precisely because the hand that has wielded the skill has not been either ethical or moral or any of those ideals or value systems. And that's why I think that in many communities, particularly in South Africa, entrepreneurship has had such a bad rep. It's always been associated with corruption. That's why we've got terms such as tenderpreneurship. How do we bring entrepreneurship out of that bad rep? Because every time you speak about entrepreneurship, it's always about the guy who's got the glint in his eye, who's got the what do they call it? That's got the wink in his eye, and it always suggests a level of unethical behavior. It's you know, that kind of thing. Hustler. How do we get entrepreneurship out of that bad rep quagmire into a more respectable thing, particularly from the township sort of context?
Aubrey, it is a very difficult question that you're asking. It's difficult because for many generations, Black people were denied the right to be fully enterprising. And we were told that it's not for us, it's for others. And that when we do it, it's side hustle. When we do it, we are hustling. Nobody has ever labeled as an entrepreneurship adventure. So we work from a defensive point of view. It's too risky, don't do it. So-and-so tried it and failed. And I think that is the thing that sort of we grew up, and that is why we subscribe to go to school, do well, work for a great organization, and your life is set. Whereas in other communities, because entrepreneurship is the way things are being done, it is a career option for them. It is a career option beyond just being a doctor, being a nurse. And so that mindset has also prevented us from getting into jobs, learning skill sets, and not being enterprising in that skill set. That we stay in line of jobs, even though we know that we can be enterprising and create our own businesses from the skill set that we've learned. So we are resetting the mindset and saying to people, actually, entrepreneurship is a mindset, first and foremost, but secondly, because we've never been taught how, and we don't sit around seeing executives and leaders and entrepreneurs on a daily basis, and therefore it's always been far. And anything that's far is always very scary. So for me, I'm thinking that first and foremost, I want us to recognize that we've always been entrepreneurial as a people. I bet you in one way or the other, to survive, people sold sweets in school, or sold fed cakes, or sold cakes, or did something to supplement an income that might not have been at home, to make means and to just thrive. Those people who are exposed to those sort of activities at a younger age, it is not surprising that later they become entrepreneurs, because they've always wanted to solve problems. They always knew that there's income, there's opportunities in this. And one of the skill sets that is important in entrepreneurship is you've got to sell. It's just the first thing. Whatever product you've got to have the ability to sell. And you cannot teach entrepreneurship without simulating a real life example of run a business. You are given this product, go out and sell, and that's the main thing. Depending on whoever comes back with the money, most of the time those who make it happen, that becomes their pathway. So not everybody can be an entrepreneur. I agree with you. Now, to come back to the bigger picture of entrepreneurship is not looking good, and therefore not everybody wants to do it. I think for me that is the act of doing business. Broadly, the act of doing business has always been challenged as an ecosystem. That other races, when they do business, it's considered ethical, and when black people do business, it's considered unethical. And we all look at the negative side of what that business looks like, and we put that in the front page. And we don't want to be entrepreneurs. That discourages a lot of people from being entrepreneurial. But for me, the negative side of entrepreneurship action cuts across every industry, cuts across every race, and every gender. So I'm not too worried about the action itself going positive or negative, because at the end of the day, every business that is listed on the stock exchange today, whichever stock exchange it is, was once someone's idea, who said, I'm going to build something, was once a small business. It grew into a middle business, into a large business. Now it's a corporate. To some extent, those are the journeys. It is the skills required to go through those stages that makes a difference. So whenever I talk about entrepreneurship, I always restrain myself to, let's just work on the mindset that entrepreneurship is a career path, is a possibility, that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, that it requires more than just somebody believing in you. You have to believe in yourself way more than somebody who's in a corporate job. So for me, that negativity does not take away from the positive actions that a lot of young people today are choosing to work for themselves, to own their time, and to exploit opportunities. And I think for me, that is the one that I want us to sort of have a new revolution that says, young people, we believe in you, you can change the world. As technology shifts, you can work from home. You can provide a service anywhere in the world from your home, because you've built yourself some skill sets that allow you to do that.
I want to talk a little bit about the barriers to entry that exist in almost every level of entrepreneurship. And I want to talk about the architecture of the book. You've got 10 entrepreneurs coming out of various townships in South Africa.
Correct.
What in your research, in the putting together of the book, was the most common barrier to entry into any entrepreneurial venture?
The fear.
Yeah.
The fear that is instilled in you when we're young, that it's not going to work. We've seen many people fail, and therefore, who do you think you are? I think that's the biggest one. And then you are considered a maverick if you go beyond that fear. And I think for me, that fear also distinguishes between somebody who's entrepreneurially minded and the one who's trying to survive. The one who tries to survive then has to overcome the fear. The one who's trying to build also has to overcome fear, because it's not innate in our DNA as we were growing up. It was never instilled that we should be that. That's number one. Number two is the perception that I need money to start a business. Not the reality, is the perception that I need money to start a business. So if you ask anyone, why haven't you started? Young people or older people, they say, I don't have money. Because we've been told many enough times that you need money to start a business. Now, why is that money also a big factor? Is that we at some point started to believe that the systems that are giving funding, they are not for us. The banks are not for us. The developmental finance institutions are not for us. The only person that may be for us.
I'm still intimidated to walk into a bank.
There you go.
And ask for money or make a proposal for a loan.
Yeah.
I still feel like this is not for me.
Beyond that intimidation, at some point, you've seen someone's car being taken away. A relative at home. You've seen a house being taken away by a bank. Meaning that that place is ruthless. It's not for me, and then therefore, I'm scared of a bank. That's the first part. It is for others, not for me. And also, they even glorify themselves in coming up with solutions that are pro-poor, pro-challenged environments where people think that the banks are not for them. They don't even bridge that gap. They've tried to bridge on the personal side, but not on the business side. So that mindset is different in terms of entrepreneurship, is about I need the money to do it. The other part, it is not seeing it through. Once you start and you fail, never going to do it again. It's not for me. And entrepreneurship requires resilience. So for me, that is that. And then the fourth one is around the environment that is not enabling. Whether there are policies or whether there are systems that are not in place, and also just socio-economic agendas that says, what are you thinking? You are Maponya now. Eh? Now you think you can establish a business. Who are you? Who the hell do you think you are? Those societal factors really draw us back. So it's the risk, it's the financials, it's an environment that's not enabling, and the psychosocial challenges that society just frowns upon those type of things.
What was it then about some of the people that you interviewed in your book that were able to rise above the fear, that were able to rise above the social conditioning, the lack of grit? What was it about them that made them rise from the township?
And I think that's really the biggest opportunity for me in the book, is that they decided that there's a return beyond this risk. So yes, I'm scared. Yes, there's a risk, but there's a return. All of them wanted to better their situation, wanted a sense of independence, wanted to change. They wanted to make a change. That's the underlining thing about this risk. If we take it, we're going to make a change. That's the one thing that sort of stands out about the entrepreneurs in the book. The second thing about them is that they worked within the parameters that I cannot approach the bank. Now, I mean, I think none of them really went and borrowed money from the bank. They started with whatever they had. And the framework that we introduced here is called Effectuation theory, which says you start with what you have. So if all I'm willing to do is to spend 3,000 rand to buy equipment to be able to start cutting hair, that's what I'm willing to spend, that's what I'm willing to lose. So they had to start with what they have. There were no financial institutions that came up for them. That's the barrier of starting in the township. Whereas if you are coming from an urban area, you know exactly how to build a business plan, you know exactly which doors to knock at, and maybe there's an uncle willing to finance a business. Whereas they did not have that opportunity. And I think for me, that whole financial relationship that township entrepreneurs have with the banks and formal systems, it is still prevalent. We see it in the book. I think the third thing is about then recrafting what the environment should look like. Because if the environment is not enabling, they recraft it. I'll tell you a story. Mamrita Zwane of Busy Corner opened...
in Tembisa.
In Tembisa, yes. Put together 2 containers and said, I'm going to start a business. And they told her that this place is not zoned for a business. You're not allowed to operate here. She said, I'm going to try. So every time the municipality would come, the police would come, sometimes they would say, you are wrongly placed, so give us money, pay school fees for this. Number two, there were no license classification for her. So there was a liquor license for a shebeen and a liquor license for a restaurant. She was in the middle. So there was no room for that. And then again, she had to pay school fees. Until such time, there was an opportunity to open for a temporary license to be applied for. Therefore, she applied for a temporary license, bought the houses in and around the container, and applied for the rezoning so that place could be rezoned, a business zoning. Now, you are now changing the entire structure because the environment is not enabling. It's rezoned as a residential apartment, a residential space. Now you can rezone it to a business space. So now you are now redefining what the environment should look like for you. You've got a license that now can be classified. You are fighting the system. So you've got to be an activist if you're coming from the township because you are doing something really new. The other one was the fact that she said, what do I have to lose? I've worked in restaurants. I've worked as a waiter. I have seen these restaurants express their cultures. I have an opportunity to express my culture. And one of my culture is about a space where people gather that makes them feel like home, especially as migrant workers coming from villages into the city, big city. You want to gather around, meet, and celebrate and enjoy that. She said, I want to create that nostalgic experience for them so that they feel home. So now you are overcoming the social impression that says the only place where you can dine is in the urban areas. You can't dine in your township. All you can do is to go to a shebeen. So now she then reconstructed a new dining experience that people from urban areas were coming down to the township to enjoy that dining experience. Again, you're overcoming the environment. So for me, that is the one piece that they do. And almost every one of the entrepreneurs, as we delve deeper, you'll find that they'll have to redefine what it is that they're doing and then start influencing the system around them. And many of them will tell you, nobody believed that they'll be successful. I'll give you an example in terms of the psychosocial implications of it. When Sheldon resigned at his banking job, and he was asked, what you going to do? He says, I'm going to be a barber. The manager laughed at him and said, you'll never be rich by being a barber. You'll come back, just know that this job will always be waiting for you. And I think that's really the mindset that says nobody believes you'll be successful.
Sheldon's from Eldorado Park.
Eldorado right? Park, yes, of Legends Barbershop, who's now having 70 stores in 5 countries and was named the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2024 for the first time with an Entrepreneur of the Year who was cutting hair, a barber, being an Entrepreneur of the Year. When we're so used to, say, tech-inclined, business-inclined type of entrepreneurs would be Entrepreneurs of the Year, it just tells you about the fabric of breaking away and changing and systemizing things and lifting up with the offering so that people can feel a sense of pride that I don't have to go under the tree to cut my hair. I can go to a formal
What was the term that you used to describe starting with what you have?
It's called effectuation theory.
Effectuation
theory, yes. So the theory says there are 5 steps to this particular journey. Number 1, if you ever wanted to do anything that's for yourself, as an entrepreneur, look at yourself first. What skill sets that you have, what talents that you have, start there. Don't look outside, don't ask for anything from anyone, start with what you have.
I ask that question about the effectuation theory because I think part of the reason why we have the crystallization of the fear factor that immobilizes us is because many times when we speak about success stories of entrepreneurship, we speak about the big systematic changes that had to take place. I mean, Zwane in Tembisa of Busy Corner had to change a whole system of government policy around rezoning, licensing. For any entrepreneur reading the book and reading and understanding that this is what she had to do, that is big and it can be very intimidating. I want you to talk about the journey of the entrepreneur. In that, I don't think Zwane was thinking in terms of changing and rezoning and buying houses. She was taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
Which is very different to the view of any success story that happens after the fact.
Correct.
Whenever we talk about success stories, we speak of them and to them in hindsight.
Yeah.
And in the way that we language the journey, it really speaks of the big achievements that have been done.
Correct.
But it sounds like the effectuation theory is a real exercise in small victories that conspire to create a bigger victory. Talk to me about that.
You know, the theory by Sarasvathy, who did it as part of her doctoral studies. She's from India. She sought to understand what are the characteristics that makes successful entrepreneurs successful. She then went on to investigated a number of successful entrepreneurs and said, what did it take for you to succeed? And what she found was that it all started with what you have, and also what we call affordable loss, the second piece, which is invest the money that you are willing to lose. Number 3, it says you must understand that you are failures. So you must be open to the failures. And that is about you'll be forced to take 10 lemon into lemonade. And the other one says you'll also be forced to leverage networks and relationships that you have. And lastly, once you're able to do that, you now have to make structural changes and shifts as you grow your business. It's called flying the plane. So those are the 5 steps that it talks to. And therefore, it underscores the fact that entrepreneurship is a journey. The reason why we wrote Rising from the Township the way we wrote it was that to take you to a Zwane, how did she grow up? Where did she grow up? What were the early influences? What did she observe from her parents? And what are some of the things she did for herself? What did Sheldon do? How was he raised? So that we take you to a younger Sheldon right up until the journey so that you understand that entrepreneurship success is between 7 and 8 years. Overnight success is between 7 and 15 years. So to a certain extent, while you see a Sheldon at 35 with 70 stores, at some point he struggled to have 1 store. And that is the journey that he goes through. So
do you think we talk enough about the struggle?
I think we do, but we don't document enough of the struggle. So everybody sees the structure, does not understand that there was first has to be a design. There first has to have money to pull the structure together. You must have the right people to pull the structure together. You must have all the rights approved for you to put the structure together. People see the end product. And like you, Aubrey, we look up to you as an amazing broadcaster. And the only story we know is the Aubrey, who's an amazing broadcaster now. If we were to take a motion study and go back to where did you grow up, where was this seed nurtured, and how did it transform to the product that you are today? I think for us, we just jump over that period because we are so obsessed by the end product.
My brother, by the way, has an interesting term for that. He calls it the story behind the glory.
Yep.
And I don't know whether we speak enough, because I think, Doc, that one of the impediments to the entrepreneurial revolution that we need in this country is how we talk about it.
Yeah.
There's a biblical principle that says don't despise the days of small beginnings.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which country the term poli comes from. We say kancane kancane.
Yeah, kancane, yes. Biggie Magmir, yeah.
Biggie Magmir. We look down upon those kinds of principles because it's got biki.
Correct.
It's got kancane.
Correct.
It's got poli. and we tend to have a situation where when we talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about the big house,
yeah,
the big SUV,
yeah,
and all of those kinds of things. But most people know, whether through evidential and experiential knowledge,
yeah,
or through intuition, that there's going to be a kancane here.
Absolutely.
Which people don't like because it doesn't have the glamour.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's really not the story of the receiving of the accolades and the awards.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about. I mean, you've written a book about.
Yeah.
I want you to talk a little bit about how to speak positively about the Gancane story. Because I'm worried that very often when we speak about entrepreneurship, we speak about when Mam Zwane had rezoned and bought the houses and the restaurant was doing well. When Sheldon has the 70.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, it is precisely the reason why we wrote the book and took people on a journey. Because we wanted to prove that there was a lot of gancanes in each and every one of the stories. We also indicate that there were many opportunities where they would have given up. Because gancane is about that. I wanna zone into Sheldon for a second. So Sheldon in September decides, my parents gave me a pair of clippers and I knew how to cut hair from the age of 14. I'm in my early 20s. I work at a bank. I'd like to start my own barbershop. He partners with a friend. They rent in this sort of space where you pay every day. You pay your people every day and you pay the rent every day. Starts in September, makes a lot of money, and he's excited about it. He does it over the weekend because he works during the day, relies on his partner for day-to-day takings. In December, a few months down the line, he gets married and goes on honeymoon for 6 days.
Yeah, he was feeling the success. Okay.
Sheldon, I will never speak about that. I will say at the moment he just goes away. When he comes back, there's no more business. He left his partner, that is a friend.
I heard the story.
Comes back, there's no business. Now, he is thinking about the money he's invested in the business, the community started to create, and the outlay that comes out of the business. But now he is disappointed by this friend who was not paying every day as he was supposed to pay. Took all the money of the takings of that day. The landlord said, you didn't pay for 3 days, therefore get out. He comes back, there's no business. He also speaks about that he's never met that friend for many years. I think it took about 5-6 years before he met that friend again after that particular episode. He then decides to himself, this entrepreneurship thing is not for me. I'll just stay with the job. Now that is gancane and saying, there's a setback. He has some comfort of, I work, so why do I give myself a hustle of this thing? As he does the work with the bank,
he was employed at
the bank, yeah. This itch of wanting to, people calling him and say, I want you to come and cut my hair. He buys a motorbike so that he can after work go and cut people's hair at their houses. So he keeps doing this thing. Over the weekend, he's busy. He's got income on both sides. And it was while one time he was going to cut someone's hair, while he's at the gate, electricity went off. And the guy says, sorry, you can't cut my hair. There's no electricity. So he thought all the wasted energy and time to go there. That was the trigger for him that he must start again. And so that's when he started again. And this time he said, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do it full time.
I want to ask you a question that our audiences might think is a bit insensitive, but I think it has to be asked in the context of the grit that is required in entrepreneurship, the resilience, as you spoke about it. I want to be really careful how I say this. One of the things that are a defining characteristic about the way that we as Black people specifically talk about opportunity and the grabbing of that opportunity, and I suppose the realities of where we come from, and is that we've almost perfected the rationalization of victimhood. I see you cringe, but I want you to stay with me. And I'm hoping that whoever watches this tries to just stay with me, because I want to excavate something. I think there's something there that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why you get a tender, part of the reason why you get an opportunity is because you've got a hard life story to tell.
Yeah.
I come from a community that was disadvantaged, or I was disadvantaged. And that becomes part of the consideration as to why you must get the opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand what
I
I'm
hear
saying.
you fully.
To the point where it becomes part of the currency of the buying of opportunity.
Yeah.
My sad story, my victimhood, which is legitimate, by the way. And this is not to any way try and delegitimize, trivialize it. It's real. But I'm simply saying that in the exchange, the transaction of the conversation about opportunity, and that has become a very big part of how we tell our story. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think in a previous conversation we might have touched on this. Every time I drive home to Mum's, I stop at a particular four-way stop. And there are these guys who are selling, the vendors, the guys that come and they want to sell you a perfume for the car, or there's another guy who wants to sell you some fruits, or maybe a bag to hold your little conveniences. There's the one guy who's been at that corner for years. And he always comes, hey, bro, Obs, buy my stuff, man. Hey, support me, man. Sablief, hey, me bro, I'm really struggling. Please buy my stuff. He's a bra. I know him from Mum's. We've known each other for years. So I usually buy this stuff, not out of a need.
Just feeling sorry for him.
Yeah. A younger guy has now started selling at the same place. And he comes and he'll come in and see my wife sitting on the passenger seat and say, hey, Mamazal, you need this so that the car can smell nice, you know. I want you to try it. Just don't pay me. Just take it and just see how it smells, and then tell me how your children feel about it. And then maybe he'll... his whole narrative is not about his hard luck story.
Yeah.
It's about how he can enhance my driving experience through the product that he's selling to me.
Yeah.
And Dr. Zwane, I'm trying to say that could it be that maybe the place from which we understand our entrepreneurial flair is from the place that has been largely successful for some.
Yeah.
That says, feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
I don't have a real value proposition except that, hey, Obs, we come from the same township together. Support the program. Versus, I have a solution for a problem, and therefore buy my stuff as a solution from that problem. I don't know if it makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, Aubrey, because the victimhood is so prevalent that we encounter it every time and every day that we think this is a norm.
And it becomes part of our lexicon,
it is,
right?
absolutely.
It becomes part of the way that we speak.
Correct.
Yeah?
What I wanted to do with Rising from the Township was to find those that have decided that they are not victims, that have decided that they are bigger than their story of the past, that they wanted to write their own narrative.
And that is not to say that the story of the past is in any way insignificant.
Absolutely not. The story of the past for them was lifting them up rather than pulling them down. So to a certain extent, one of the main things that we talk about in the book is that when somebody has risen, we're saying they've moved out. So they've looked past and looked beyond to what their situation was. They've looked past the fact that El Dorado Park, there's gangs, there's drugs, there's this reality, and said, I want a different reality for myself. And so all of these people that we found is that they want to decide, You want a different reality for yourself. There's no room for victimhood. But because the role models that we've seen every time have played the victimhood card, we are adopting that victimhood card and becoming part of our blueprint. And so it becomes the part of our reality. It's part of how we show up. That's what differentiates between somebody who is running a short-term enterprise and somebody who's running a long-term enterprise. A long-term enterprise person says, there must be a demand for my services. Not a demand for my story, but a demand for my services. And all of these entrepreneurs here have found that unique selling point. I want to talk about Candice Thurston, who founded Candy & Co. She sort of come from a colored community in Mpumalanga, and she was struggling at the way hair was being done for black girls. And most of the time she had a particular salon that she went into, and in the crossroad of her life, she decided, I'm a brand and marketing expert, and I'm seeing a flyer that says there's an opportunity to establish a boutique. A boutique, a salon, and within a stable of an already existing system. And then she goes and says, I'd like to preach for this. And she pitches and does a lot of research on why this is important. Who is it solving for? She's not saying I had a problem growing up and therefore people must feel sorry that we can solve the problem. She says if we do this, we'll bring pride in her amongst black people. So I want to be able to establish this. And the company says, okay, we're happy to partner with you. We write your proposition. We will come with 60%, you bring 40%. And she then takes all the savings, put them in and says, I'm willing to back myself for this opportunity. So a lot of the people that that are not caught up in the mindset of victimhood, they are willing to back themselves up. So she backs herself up, and the story is an amazing story thereafter. I also think that the whole thing about victimhood traces back to a lot of where we are coming from, the history of apartheid and the likes. And that mindset will take some time to get over. But the more we bring on role models who prove that things could be done, there are 3 tracks where we've proven that it will be the case. We have proven that people can become professionals in fields that were not normally supposed to be professionals, whether it's chartered accountants or doctors or lawyers. We've proven that, and we run systems in that particular space. The second one, we've proven that people can be politicians. Whether we like it or not, politicians are part of the ecosystem. They know their pathway and have become politicians, and they know the pathway of becoming a politician. So we've seen that over and over and over again. And also, just generally in life, we have proven that we can come from bad situations to good situations, and those that stand out get praised. But we are quick to pull each other down when things don't go our way. And that's where entrepreneurship is a bit of a challenge, is that when things don't go right, people say, what were you thinking? And I think that's why people use different names of successful entrepreneurs and you think you're a great entrepreneur like Maponya, because it's easy to use that. Every time you think you're hustling, everybody says you think you're Maponya, which means you can never amount to anything greater than what you're trying to do. So please don't try and make yourself bigger. So that whole idea of us selling our stories to be able to get an income back, it's not sustainable. But what I've seen with these new age, not so old, not so young entrepreneurs who are also just charting a new path is that they are relatable. They prove that we can overcome. They prove that you can use the same story to your benefit. So Sheldon will be able to tell you that I come from a drug-ridden environment. There was a time when I had to choose between going to sell drugs and going to school. And I chose this particular path. I wish more people can choose that path. I can never control those who choose the other path, but I would like to be a positive example. We are littered with examples of that nature, but most of them are in the corporate side. We now want a lot of the entrepreneurial side. Thriving economies rely on a lot more people choosing entrepreneurship. So part of it is saying, if you see many enough people, understand many enough of their stories, you would like to be like them. And as you like to be like them, you read about the story. I made an example the other day when I was talking to a friend. I said, one of the reasons people say, I'm not choosing entrepreneurship is my parents don't want me to choose entrepreneurship. I say, I remember growing up in the 90s, I loved music, and therefore I'll have a Boyz II Men picture and I'll write their lyrics down. I'll have a Dr. Khumalo picture, and people know I favor Kaizer Chiefs. Nobody ever said to me my visions were wrong. It didn't matter that I couldn't play soccer as well as Dr. Khumalo, or I couldn't sing to save my life. People were already seeing my choices. And I'm thinking that if you're a young person who wants to be an entrepreneur, despite the fact of what people say in your house, the picture you have on your wall determines your dreams. So put the entrepreneurs you're looking up to in your wall. Read and learn more about them and their journeys. Find commonalities between you and them. That already starts with a vision. Every one of the entrepreneurs, everyone will tell you, you must have a vision in life. So whatever you are projecting in your life, whoever you have in your contacts, whatever you have at the walls, your wall screens, and any other screen that you have determines where you're going. No one will say, you can't look up to Sheldon. You can't look up to Candice. You can't look up to Tugoshes. In fact, people will be curious, who is this? Now you get to tell the stories. And that gangane elements are coming in. And for me, I'm just saying that we need to give a lot more credit to entrepreneurs because it's really a hard journey. It's a lonely journey.
I want to talk about yet another sensitive issue.
Sure.
I watch the conversations that are taking place around entrepreneurship in our country, particularly as it pertains to migrants from other parts of the African continent, Pakistan and so forth. And there's a lot of tension at the moment.
Yeah.
Because of the whole immigration issue and so forth. And you're going to have to help me here. But from where I sit and look, I sometimes get the sense that the guys from other parts of the African continent, maybe Pakistan and so forth, have gotten the entrepreneurship thing right.
Mindset.
Which we are not taking enough advantage of.
Correct.
Now, the political conversation with regards to illegal immigration and so forth is one conversation. But I want to talk about the entrepreneurial prowess that we see. You look at the spaza shop business in the townships. I would argue up to 80% of that business is now in the control of immigrants.
That's true.
Maybe even more. What did they figure out? What did they understand about a country that they were not born in, that they have recently come in? I mean, we're talking about 20 years at most. What have they understood that perhaps is an opportunity that we in South Africa, as South African people in the townships specifically, have not taken up?
Aubrey, I want to go empirical a little bit for you on this one and say one of the things I did between 2004 and 2023 was to run a Saturday school program on entrepreneurship for grade 11s. And that was the biggest learning for me, that entrepreneurship mindset is a norm for anyone coming from outside. When it came to the entrepreneurship challenge, we knew very well that if you've had anyone coming from outside of South Africa in a company, that company is going to outperform everyone. And they would sell most products, that company is going to do well. Now, this is grade 11's high school. Because they can galvanize anybody and they're not scared to go out there and say, I'm selling things. So there's no sense of pride. And they can point to everybody in their ecosystem that has been an entrepreneur before. So for them, this is not an uncharted territory. And then when it comes to our own young people coming from the township, this is the first introduction to anything that talks about money and business. These kids have been observing it for a while. So to a certain extent, I knew that any company that has someone from outside or anyone that is Indian or white, those companies will perform better than the ones that don't have that mix.
Why?
I come down to maybe two things. Number one is that it is a norm to be an entrepreneur in their environment. They talk about it at dinner tables. So it's not an anomaly.
You know that the argument will come back to you to say, but we had these things. Spaza shops are not a new idea. We've always had spaza shops.
Yeah.
What happened to that entrepreneurial flair that had the general dealer? You know, remember that general dealer?
I grew up in that environment as well. Yeah.
The corner later, the spaza shop. What
Correct.
happened to that entrepreneurial flair?
So
that entrepreneurial impulse.
You are very right. Like I'll go back to a point we started with earlier on. So we learned that actually our people outside of the country think differently than us. When we double click with them and said, what is the difference? They say for us, entrepreneurship is the way of being. Whereas for us, finding a job has been the way of being. We wanted to run away from all our own systems in our own backyard. So we rely on formal systems, whereas a lot of our guys coming from the continent, it's the fact that they know that they cannot all be absorbed by the system and therefore they need to make a plan.
In fact, sometimes systems don't exist.
Exactly. So that environment has enabled them. That's how we do it. That's why they don't look down on each other when they sell things down the road, when we do. So we built a lot of our existence around formal systems. I'm going to get a job at the bank. I'm going to get a job at a retail store. So our mindset has been job seekers. And whereas their mindset has always been about job creation, about self-surviving, self-sufficiency, self-employment. So those mindsets are two different mindsets. We are told, go to school and go get a job, and that is the case. But also, we have never looked at the spaza shop as a business. We always knew that the spaza shop is owned by a taxi man who owns a couple of taxis, and that's the only thing. And then they are special. It's not for us. It's only for a special few.
So there's an exceptionalism
Correct.
in that mindset that says it's their thing,
Correct.
You can't do it.
Correct.
I mean, I see it in the conversation around agriculture.
Yeah.
How we have made ourselves believe that farming or agricultural practices, it's for those people.
Yeah. Correct.
We can't do this
Correct.
thing. You know, so there's a mindset, and I suppose that's a legacy of apartheid.
It's a legacy of apartheid
that says that this is for them, this is for you, and it looks like that has continued in our mindsets.
And I think I like the fact that exceptionalism is exactly what it is, because now the exceptionalism, what it did was then the people who were running it believed that it was an exceptional thing, and they also did not want it for their own children. So they will pay for good education for their own children, encourage them to go look for a job. It was never, we are part of an ecosystem. We need to make a lasting legacy of this ecosystem. You bring your education in here. Now, every time these products of spaza shops who've been paid for by the spaza shop income, they never wanted to give anything back. In fact, we were praising people becoming doctors, teachers, and everything like that. We're never praising the entrepreneurial venture. So the very same children that will stay in the same house will never feel a need to be behind the till every time. In fact, it felt like slavery for them. When you hear the stories like they forced me to stay there, whereas in other cultures, it's a norm. I need to come back and work at a family spaza shop. I need to come back at the mom and pops. So remember, even the language, it's a spaza. A spaza is something
diminutive thing.
It's a temporary thing. It's like, it means nothing. Whereas others we call moms and pops stores. So it gives a mindset. It's a store. It's a spaza. So we believed in that mindset. Let me tell you how terrible this belief is to this day. We still go to rural areas and find that there are no flushing toilets. And we go there every holidays with our families, and we go and use the same pit toilets. Right? So those long drops, we have the ability to buy and create a flushing toilet in that home. But we never do it.
It's part of what we have decided, whether consciously or unconsciously, is what a rural home should be.
Should be.
It should not have a flushing toilet.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's no longer a rural home.
A gentleman called Simpiwe Mteto, he then decided that he will find older women in their 70s who are struggling health-wise and help them put in rural areas flushing toilets. The very executives who are children of that were shocked that there's a flushing toilet at home. They say, I don't know, I've never thought I should put a flushing toilet here.
It never occurred to me.
Never occurred to me.
I want to ask you about, as we close, this idea of small business.
Yeah.
Spaza.
Yeah.
This idea of township economy.
Correct.
Even in the way that we speak
demean it.
about entrepreneurship, it's always about, I want my small business.
Yeah. Not a business, a small business.
It's always about a small business.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's part of that exceptionalism. Shall I call it negative exceptionalism?
Absolutely.
Stereotypes that we have imbibed that keep us back in the sense that we always see ourselves as a small-nyana something. What is it? Are we trying to be humble? Well, explain to me that whole psychological space, because I almost think that maybe part of the reason why we're not seeing the leaps that we should be seeing in entrepreneurial activity in this country is because there is still that mindset that we must always be a something nyana, a small-nyana, this, a spaza-nyana, this. There's a diminutive affection, affiliation. We want to be small so that we don't offend the idea of us being small, so that we don't offend the very profitable space of victimhood.
If we use big English, we'll say there's a scarcity mindset and there's an abundance mindset. We've inherited.
Do you understand? We're going to get into trouble now.
Yeah. I know.
Like,
this
we might as well go, right?
This is a very tough territory we're getting into. But just like you've introduced a framing for me of exceptionalism, I'm now able to talk about this mindset that said scarcity is about of the view that I will never have. I'm lucky to have, and I'm not deserving. Whereas other people are operating with abundance mindset, which means there's many opportunities we can do this. It's not the last time.
Don't drink sparely in the ocean.
Exactly. And there's the ocean that says it's all there for you. So our mindset has always been, somebody else must give me money. And I must be grateful. I must be grateful for the job I've got. I must be grateful for this. I must be grateful for this. On the other side, people are like, there's many fishes in the sea. There's enough for us to survive and to live. And this nyana thing in our language has also perpetuated the scarcity mindset. You know, I recently learned that if your father is a doctor, you must look at yourself as Dr. Nyana. Like, you doctor, there's certain things you can do because your father is a doctor.
No. I mean, I look at the pastor situation in our communities. If your father was a pastor, it's almost fait accompli that you are going to be a pastor.
Correct.
Too.
And for me, I've seen how in the abundance world, it's such a positive thing that all of us can be doctors in this house because our father was a doctor. On our side, it's exceptional. Oh, you thought you were better? You were that. And you're the only one that's in that path because everybody says it's an exception. That's not the rule in our home. Nobody should be what you are. And so that mindset is the one that is engulfing us, that we are underplaying everything that we do. And even in the work environment, we are always feeling grateful. We never fulfill our potential. We never exercise the leadership and the advocacy that gets given to us. So how does that, for me, then make sense about this nyana situation that we are talking about?
The belittling, the diminutive description of all our ventures.
Correct.
Yep.
Well, what I found about, I'm going to go back and just read and see some of the nuances you're referring to. But what I found about these entrepreneurs that are in this book, they just wanted to be better than their environments. So which means they didn't subscribe to the things I'm going to discuss.
But you know that to even say I want big windows on my four-roomed house can be a very controversial thing in our communities.
Correct.
You think you're bad.
Think you're bad, yeah.
If I start saying I want to be better, we tend to speak of that idea as being repulsive in our community.
Correct.
The idea that I want to be better is always associated with the idea that you think that everybody else is lower or insignificant. It's classism.
Yeah.
I want to suggest to you, Doc, that maybe that is the problem.
Sure.
I want to suggest to you that the problem could be that we've alienated the idea of wanting to be better. And perhaps that is why there is within our thinking an inherent self-sabotaging. That even when we are just about to break through, we self-sabotage so that we don't have the responsibility of being better.
It's a pity and it's a reality at the same time. It's even hardcore professionals that are advancing in their own careers, they suffer from exactly that.
What is that? What is that thing?
I don't know.
An inferiority complex?
Probably quite what it is. I named it the other day when I was talking, that sometimes we act like a minority in a country where we are a majority. So we are now succumbing ourselves to systems that we shouldn't be succumbing ourselves to. We really talk about ourselves as if we are disadvantaged in our own country where we're supposed to be the majority, where we're supposed to be taking charge. And to a certain extent, to the point you mentioned earlier, we watch people do great in our backyard. Instead of learning and wanting to assimilate, we blame. So that blame makes us feel good about ourselves. And we show them that they can't do this in our own backyard. Let people do it because they are daring. And to a certain extent, I think that we are now seeing the negative impact of all of that. Because now we've got more educated people, we've got more spaces for people to go to university. There's no longer fewer people going to university, but they come back and sit, there's no return on investment. We realize that there's no one who's going to create jobs here. We need to create the jobs ourselves. It's just that we don't have the know-how, and therefore we need to reset in our minds how we do it. Now we have to swallow our pride and start selling fruits, vegetables, and go back in some instances. And that pride is very hard to swallow because you've got a degree. Because we were told you can't work a job that is clerical jobs if you've got a degree, and therefore you can't even humble yourself to that. You wait for years to be able to do that before you can say, okay, now I have no choice. I have to do it. So that mindset is a big challenge for us. Here's what I'm hoping that somebody listening to this conversation, I hope we are having a conversation that provokes their thinking. I hope it's a conversation.
Not their anger.
No, not their anger at all.
Because I think it's so important to say that, Doc, because we're not trying to make you angry.
No.
We're trying to make you think. And it might be uncomfortable. But maybe that's where our saving grace is.
Correct.
That we be confronted with those uncomfortable things about ourselves.
Yeah.
I call it the private conversation that we need to have amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I think, Doc, that is what trips us from actually achieving the greatness that we actually have.
Correct. I think you put it very aptly earlier when you said maybe we don't talk about the small-nyana steps. We jump to the end product. We don't talk about the toddler stage. We go straight to the adult stage. And so when we don't talk about it, that's why the young people say, I don't know an entrepreneur, because all they see is a businessman. Because before the businessman was an entrepreneur. Maybe we don't talk about it that much. But maybe us provoking the thinking of the people, part of this particular process is that please understand that no one is going to create a job for you. You need to figure out how to create a job, not just for you, but for the community that you are living in.
That's where we are now.
That's where we are. We are forced by the circumstances to do that. And in that being forced, we need role models. Find the people that are doing it. Learn from them. Go and shadow an entrepreneur. Say, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? Learn to sell something. And in that, challenge yourself and know one thing, there is no pride in entrepreneurship. If you are too proud, too educated, I don't think you'll be able to create a system that is sustainable, that works, that puts food on the table, but more importantly, that makes you rise from where you're from to the destination that you want to become. All of the people featured in the Rising from the Township, they are changing an ecosystem because they know that if they change this ecosystem, they're creating a pathway for other people to be better.
Dr. Stephen Mandla Zwane, it's been wonderful talking to you. And I really hope that our viewers take the time to just read the book.
Absolutely.
And allow themselves to be challenged by some of the things that we've discussed today, instead of being angry about it.
Yeah.
The first impulse will be to be angry because we've developed the narratives inside of us for such a long time that militate against this kind of conversation. But after you've been angry, come back and just think about what has been said here. Because I don't think that we will achieve the greatness that we know is in us if we don't subject ourselves to this humbling process from our exceptionalism. Thank you very much.
No, Aubrey, thank you. I think for me, we are agitating around entrepreneurship education, not because we think we are coming up with buzzwords, but we think we want you to start interrogating and leveraging it and say, what does it look like? What is in there? What is expected of me? How do I start? How did others start? And that agitation should not make you angry, but it should excite you. Because now it means you can have a different conversation with young people and say, what have you started? We used to be told to start things that solve the community problems. Let's start things that make people commercial.
The book is called Rising from the Township. The authors are Dr. Stephen Zwane, with whom I've just been having this conversation together with Yamkela Khoza Chwakadi. And I'm really hoping that our listeners and our viewers will find time to read this book. It is important. It is important that all of us read this book in order for us to challenge our mindsets for the purpose of greatness. Thank you so much for watching once again. See you next time.